Like I might post maybe some porn or a video of my ass, my cock, my dick, fucking bitches, whores, fucking whores and sluts.
I learned that shit from the street.
Oh man, what is it, episode 102 or something? This week, we're going to be talking about a melodic death metal band that got a decent amount of press back in the day, but isn't really mentioned so much nowadays. They don't really fit into our standard conception of the genre, and so they are unfortunately ignored by all but the most diehard fans amongst us. I am, of course, talking about Godgory. Surprisingly, in Daniel Ekeroth's weighty tome, Swedish death metal, they are, in fact, mentioned rather positively. Quote, "Good melodic death metal from Karlstad, founded in 1992. Unlike many others, Godgory combines melody and brutality nicely. When the band became a duo and signed to Nuclear Blast, the quality faded."
언제쯤 데뷔할 수 있을까라는 생각은 당연히 많이 했고.
What do you mean, why am I doing a British accent instead of a Swedish one? It gives it an air of intellectual honesty. Plus, nobody wants to hear fucking... So yeah, it's 90s death metal type stuff from Sweden. As the description by Daniel Ekeroth implies, the heart and soul of the band is vocalist Mata Andersson and drummer slash guitarist slash keyboardist slash a whole bunch of stuff, Eric Andersson. But during the entire course of the band, they always had Mikael Dahlqvist, Stefan Olsson, and Fredrik Danielsson filling in on the 4 and 6-stringed instruments as well. Initially, they were full members of the band. Later on, they are session members playing songs written by Eric Andersson. So, did they really start out good and then get lame when it turned into more of a two-person affair? Let's find out. First album, Sea of Dreams. First song, Sick to the Core. So we have acoustic guitars, rolling drums, and sort of a spacey solo before we get into some heavier stuff, but the light and shade dynamics are in full effect with this band. It's one of their defining features. What in the hell was that noise?
해보겠습니다.
Someone threw a potted plant at the window. What the hell? Whatever. Guess we were being a little too loud. Anyways. Melody and brutality, yeah, I can hear that. Actually, the riffs are a little bit closer to straight up, almost very slow, Morbid Angel death metal, as opposed to the Gothenburgy stuff. But the bizarre rolling drums and the melodic lead guitar give it a very unique feeling. Not too much sounds like this. This came out on Invasion Records, which is a hotbed in Sweden for slightly weirder death metal back in the early 90s. And overall, that first album, Daniel Ekeroth likes it. I don't see any reason to doubt him because it's pretty good, despite being somewhat hard to acquire compared to their later material. Here's that cool floaty stuff. Opeth, Eat Your Heart Out. These guys were doing this back in like 1992 or whatever the fuck.
Hey, didn't you guys hear that potted plant I threw onto your balcony? That always worked back in the 80s to get people's attention.
Wow.
That's right, it's me!
Holy shit, it's Sebastian Bach!
What the fuck?
안녕하세요, 트와이스 지우입니다.
I mean, Dave Mustaine.
You goddamn right, it's me, Mega Dave. How's it going? Hey, is that a stack of Godgory albums you got there? I remember those guys from the mid-90s. They were pretty cool. Cause they were a Gothenburg-style melodic death metal band, but you know, most of the bands from there were influenced by Iron Maiden. These guys seem to have a bit more of a Diamond Head thing going on once they pared down to a two-piece band. A lot of mid-pace riffs and soaring vocals, a little bit of a progressive rock influence there, YouTube.
Do you say YouTube a lot?
Yeah, it's me, Dave Mustaine. Hey, let's put that second album on, see how their sound evolved. Oh yeah, check out that dank, groovy, stadium rock death metal riff.
Yeah, and they got lots of good progressive melodic stuff on this album too. This was the first album where they were a two-piece, so you still have Dahlqvist in the band, but he's just doing session stuff, playing with the drummer Eric Andersson tells him to.
You are scum and nothing worse.
Wait a minute, what the fuck? These guys ripped my song off. Wow, this sucks ass. Who the fuck put this on? I'm gonna sue these fucking faggots. I swear to God.
You can't swear to God. I thought you were part of like Tradcath gang right now.
Shut the fuck up, asshole. Man, I'm so fucking pissed. I can't believe they ripped off fucking Sweating Bullets. I am gonna have a word with my legal team. You Anderson brothers are out of business.
Well, good luck with that, Mega Dave, because Matt Anderson and Eric Anderson aren't actually brothers, so you're probably going to find the wrong people, and they've been broken up for shit like 20 years now, so good luck finding them, I guess. Anyways, this is when we get into the era of the band that Daniel Ekaroth doesn't like. However, I think they actually got more interesting. I mean, you saw their little stabs at doing kind of more traditional heavy metal stuff with that rather atrocious Megadeth ripoff on their second album. By the time they get to their third album, they signed with Nuclear Blast. They have quite a bit more label money behind them. They've honed their songwriting immensely. Much more prominent keyboard usage on this album, and you can tell that it's all written by a drummer because of these odd way he structures stuff. You have these very atonal percussive riffs, and then all the melodies being carried by these very subtle keyboards. Strange stuff. Like I said, probably influenced, like I said, I mean like how Dave Mustaine said, probably influenced by a lot of the epic heavy metal of the 80s. They in fact covered an Accept song on this album. So here we go into the light and shade dynamics. We have a lot of vocal variety in this album. We have growls, we have whispers, we have very low goth tones. This acoustic part is important later on in the song as a recurring motif, as you will now see. Alright, so we're getting back into fading those guitars in slightly more heavy stuff, back to the percussive things. And there's the more gothic vocals. But that acoustic guitar interlude didn't go away. In fact, it will be developed on in a heavier way by a pretty amazing keyboard explosion that's about to happen once it gets a bit more death metal-y. So they're big into layering sounds.
Yeah!
So that's that acoustic guitar figure now being played by a keyboard with heavy death metal vocals over it. As you can probably tell, this song is like 7 or 8 minutes long. They're big on long songs. However, I would say that song typifies one pole of the bipolar structure of this album, the third Godgory album, Resurrection. The other pole you can hear most typified by the song Crimson Snow. Well, no, hang on, this doesn't seem right. Are you sure this is the right song?
이번에 처음으로
Wait, it says Crimson Snow on it right there. Let me see, look at this. Crying Blood and Oh no, this is Crying Blood and Crimson Snow by Thurgothan, not Crimson Snow by Godgory. This is in fact the wrong doom metal song entitled Crimson Snow. Also, the one we're looking for isn't doom metal at all. This is straight up very thrashy, melodic, neoclassical death metal. I've always called this particular variant on the genre Castlevania core because it sounds like a goddamn Castlevania song being played by thrash metal guitars. So you have this sound existing with that other sound you heard earlier. And most songs kind of exist in the middle space between the two of them. Some are oriented more one way, that very doomy progressive sound. The other stuff is much more violent, thrashy, and melodic. Most of the lyrics are about murdering people, but they're done in a very faux romantic, vaguely gothic style, heavily focused on mental illness and wondering whether or not it's actually happening, decaying mental states, that kind of thing. Pretty cool stuff. Their final album, appropriately entitled Way Beyond, has a similar bipolar structure. On one hand, you have stuff that sounds like this. I actually remember reading an interview with Dave Grohl, of all people, in a Guitar World magazine, where he talked about how being a drummer gave him a different way of thinking about guitars and how he writes songs, where he uses the lower strings like a kick drum and the upper strings are more used for accents like different kinds of cymbals. And I think it's interesting when a drummer writes more guitar-based music. You can hear that with most notably Dark Throne. Got Fenris, the drummer, main songwriter. But also Godgory and other bands like Profanatica and such. This is very gothic storytelling stuff. Songs about dying. Very emotional, which might turn some people off. I actually think it's pretty well done. Although this part is a bit maudlin right here. Those shivers in your spine might be douche chills, or you might actually be responding to the emotionality of the music. I thought it was pretty cool stuff. And I like his different kind of varied vocal styles that he uses. And the heavy focus on sound layers. You have the very trudgy, chugging guitars in line with the kick drums, and then you have the more floaty, chorded stuff going on, as well as the droning keyboards. This album heavily utilized Moog synthesizer.
Two boys play the synthesizer.
Which makes sense given the heavy predilection for progressive rock the main songwriter Eric Anderson obviously possesses. So that's one pole of a rather bipolar album. At the opposite end we have the thrash influences being replaced by something not unlike a very joyous take on Edge of Sanity. So a lot of harmonized guitars with heavy melodic keyboards, which I quite enjoy. Surprisingly, this album doesn't feature Dan Swano on it, although he did produce their first one. Instead, it was produced by guys over at Studio Fredman that did all the In Flames albums. How about that? So you have this being the more aggressive end of the album. That other song was the very doomy, emotional end, and most songs exist in a matrix of those two major ideas, and that's Godgory. I really enjoy their last two albums, even though they're rather looked down upon. Their first album is also an underrated classic. Their second one's kind of shaky, but it has its moments. Overall, very good band, very undernoticed. Well worth checking out if you want to hear some death metal that doesn't sound like anything you might have heard done in the genre. Also, they have really good solos. Bye, I love you!
Right, they pretty normal. Like, I'm a normal guy. I'm a swell guy. I'm a nice enough guy. I'm a cool kind of guy. I'm a pretty movie guy. Then I get a little sugar in me and I start to go cuckoo. Doesn't have to be much. This time around it was two little 501 brownies. Only 90 calories each, but they do the job. You know what I'm saying? A little, loopy. Ooh. Hey, somebody put this kid in a padded cell. Get him a straight jacket. He's a little wacky.